I'm going to teach you how to build an AI assistant for your business. The reality is, a lot of times when implementing AI, you're not getting the growth in your business that you're hoping for. And that might just be because you're implementing it in the wrong places. Now, I learned this while building my Inc. 5000 business, where we really turned AI as a tool into something that was more of a full employee or assistant, or is able to replace entire teams using this. So a lot of times we're just using prompts or things that have no real business impact. And we want to figure out how to turn AI into this kind of tool. It's like Google, where we're searching into a real useful assistant. So the first thing we need to do is jump in and find where the constraint is in our business. So we're going to use 5 different processes to implement a real assistant versus just a prompt. So the first thing is we want to determine the constraint. Then I'm going to go into each one of these in a little bit more detail, but then we want to map out what that process currently looks like. From there, we're going to create the brain of the AI. So AI itself is super smart, but it's like a really good intern. They don't know much about your business. They don't know who your avatar is. They don't know who they're working with. They don't know your business processes. And so we have to teach them all of that. Then once we educate them, we give them the textbooks, we give them the correct tools, we have to prompt them on what we want them to do. So it's kind of like if they had just read a book on implementing systems into their business, but then they didn't know where you want them to start. So that's what the prompt does, is that's where to start. And then finally, once we build these assistants, we want to connect them to all of our tools to make them useful. And that's where agents and workflows really come into play. So the first piece in here is our constraints. And that's really, what is the needy piece of your business? What is taking up the most time? What are you repeatedly doing? What do you not like doing? What can you improve quality on? And this is just figuring out what is holding you back from growing. Now, for a lot of businesses, this is a very difficult thing to find. That constraint is, when we change this constraint, the business will actually grow. That's what we're looking for. So to do this, one of the easiest ways is to focus on yourself, the founder, the business owner, and do a time study and determine where are you spending the majority of your time. Because if you could remove that process and then start working on something else, ideally the business is going to grow. The other piece of that is you could look at your CRM, you could look at other tools and figure out where some constraints are. For a lot of businesses, if you're doing calls, if you're an agency, it might be show rates. Show rates is a huge thing where you're booking 100 calls, but only 50 of them are showing. So you're losing a whole bunch of calls, and that's one of the cheapest ways to improve your business. So once we figure out where we think we want to start working, we have to look at investor criteria. Basically, is this actually the constraint? So by fixing this, are we increasing revenue? Are we increasing lifetime value? Are we reducing risk of the business? Or are we reclaiming time? And the reclaiming time to me is so important because I want to design a business that I want to work in. So a lot of what I do isn't always about revenue, but it's reclaiming time so I can use my time in other places. Once we determine yes to one of these things, so it has to be a yes to one of these, or we do not have a constraint in our business. If it's not going to increase revenue, or if it's not going to increase lifetime value, it's not going to be a yes for us to continue because it's not worth the resources. The next thing is, if we have that yes, we need to determine, are we going to do more? So are we taking what's already working and we're doing more? So for an example, email marketing. If email marketing is really well for you, are we just going to do more of it? So if we're sending 10 emails a day, are we going to send 20? If we're sending 100 emails a day, are we going to send 200? Are we going to do better? So maybe we're sending 100 emails a day and we're getting a 2% open rate. Are we going to focus on the copy and the storytelling? Are we going to improve it there? Or are we going to do something new? Maybe instead of email marketing, we're going to start running ads on a new channel. New is usually the most expensive and the thing we do last after we fully exhausted a single channel. So typically, whatever we're doing, we just want to look at how to do it, either more of it or better, before we really look into new. Because again, that new takes so many resources to implement. Now, the last and most important piece of this, is it worth the cost of what we're implementing? It's going to be a project and it's going to take you 100 hours to do. Could you be doing another project with those 100 hours that would bring in more revenue, more lifetime value? So is it actually worth that? Once the answer is yes to all of these things, you have your constraint and you can start looking at implementing AI into that process. You do not want to waste your time implementing AI until the answers are yes to these. And the thing that's really critical is it doesn't have to be major lifts. So for example, reclaiming time is a super easy one. If you're building an AI assistant and it's helping you reclaim even an hour a week, that's meaningful for a business owner, a founder, even an employee. So it just needs to be yes to these. And then the AI assistants are usually pretty low lifts, so they're not very expensive. So for this one, we'd maybe call it's either new or better, depending on what you already have implemented, where maybe it's just helping you script, or maybe it's helping you write those email copy. And so we're taking our current email process and we're just doing it a little bit better with AI. And the cost of that is probably only a couple pennies per email, if even that. So we've got that constraint where we want to do more or we want to do it better, and then it is worth the cost. So once we have that, it's so important to map out what's successfully working. And this is where a lot of people make mistakes, is if you don't have a successful process, it's really hard to build out a system. So I help business owners get out of their own way by implementing systems into their business. And if you're interested in Founder Systems AI, you can see the link down below. But this is where it becomes so critical, is we have to map out a process that is working. So we focus on what we're already doing and we just draw it out. Like, we literally pen and paper. What I like to do personally is I do Loom walkthroughs. So if it's coming up with script ideas for YouTube, or if it's just sending those emails, I do a walkthrough of the entire process and I transcribe it. So I speak through that entire process. I name the tools, I say exactly what I'm doing, and I have the video too, because I can share the video, but then I'm gonna use that transcription to build out an SOP. So I did forget to mention for that time study, and I'll have a link down below to grab that for free, and for my SOP as well. And these are really critical when building out basically our assistants, because we have to give it context. So we build out these SOPs, and I have a whole bunch of videos on SOPs, but basically we're just giving it that context. And the way I do this, and the easiest way, is I do a Loom video. Like I said, I record my thoughts and I just have ChatGPT transcribe it into the template that I want. So I have a full SOP, and I keep this in a singleized location so it's all organized, so I can build these assistants more effectively. And once I build a document, I don't have to build it over and over again. So in here we have this, we've mapped it out, we're done a Loom. So for this example, what I'm going to do is I have a kind of an SOP. It's a template on the avatar of Otter Public Relations, which is one of my agencies. It's the Inc. 5000 agency. This is where I implement a lot of my experiments before bringing them to my clients and helping them systemize their business. Here, it walks through the avatar of my business. And again, what we're doing is we're giving context to the AI. So we can't build out a good assistant without giving them context. Think about, again, that intern example. If we have an intern, they have no education, we haven't told them about the problem, we haven't explained any piece of this, they're just not going to be successful. Even if you tell them exactly what to do, they might be able to go grab coffee or something like that. But you have to give them the information, because even with a coffee example, if you like your coffee fancy latte with cream, sugar, whatever you want, you're still giving them context to solve that problem. We mapped it out, and then we're into the brain, which is the context. And that's, again, where we're actually taking these and putting them into documentation. So simple example, again, is just this avatar sheet where we have information about our business. And I have example worksheets of most of these. You can grab the description, the link down below. But we really want to give the AI context to whatever problem we're trying to solve. So in this example, what I'm doing, and so we'll kind of work backwards a little bit for a second. What I'm doing is I'm going to build out something that every time someone books a call with my team, it's then going to do research on that lead and that company, and then it's going to match it to a case study from my business, and then it's going to segment them into hot, warm, cold, or bad fit. And we need certain context. So that's why the avatars are important. Is for this example, we need context. We also need an AI that matches to our case studies. So these are all things I built before using this exact process. So again, for this example, I already have the case study matching built out, but I don't really have a good scoring system. And so that's why we have this context, and then we can layer on top a prompt. So once we build out this context, and that's literally just going to be a file, we're going to download this and upload it into ChatGPT or into any other tool that you really want to use. Focus on the prompts. And don't worry, I'm going to show you guys more of this as we get towards the end. I'm going to kind of put it all together for you. But with prompt engineering, we've given it context. Now, if you're having a conversation with Chat or Claude or Perplexity or any of these tools, Grok, you still want to do the similar process of prompt engineering. And it's really simple. You need to have a role. So I'm using the intern example over and over again. You have an intern in your business who needs to know what their job is. So is that intern solely an office admin? Is that intern an engineering intern? Is that intern a design intern? That changes what the responsibility is, especially for interns, because they're usually pretty moldable. They don't have the experience or the education. So we're here to guide them and teach them, and assuming that they're smart because we hired well. So the first thing here is we're going to give them context. So if we're talking about the avatar example, we could use the context. Hey, chat, you're an expert in sales, business development, and you're going to look at, we just told them we're an expert in sales and business development. That's the role. Now the task, you're going to look at potential leads and help us analyze them to determine if they're going to be a good fit for our business, for Otter Public Relations or for Founder Systems AI. Now the context here is we're going to say, because I like giving really good context, you're going to say, check your knowledge base for our avatar sheet and pull information out of our avatar sheet to make sure it's a good fit. And then the output. And so again, with that context piece, what we've done is we've really given it a whole bunch of details. So we could have done this without that massive document, but the results wouldn't be quite as good, especially as you're building out true assistants. And that's really where I'm trying to get you, is to build out true assistants that replace full teams. So that's why we need that deeper context versus just we're looking for business owners doing 6 million a year or $1 million a year, X, Y, and Z. And the last piece of this formula is the output. How do we want this to output them? So what exactly do we want to say? We want to go into a table. And so for this one, I just want to say whether they're hot, warm, cold, or not qualified. And so that's the output we want them to have. And then I can say, I only want one word. I want it to be exactly this. And then you can obviously get more complicated and have it come out in JSON and things like that, but we don't need any of that. We just want a plain text output. So this is your template, and you should always be putting your prompts like this. Even if you're just having a conversation back and forth with ChatGPT, this style prompt is so critical. We've really gone through the core pieces, and I know I haven't showed you anything yet. So that's where I want to get to now, is actually the show and tell. The last piece of it is making it useful, and it's actually connecting it in ChatGPT or any other tool. So there is one step past this, which I don't even think I put on the first screen, but it's actually connecting it to our workflows and tools. So right now we're going to make it useful. And this is where I'm going to actually show you versus telling you. So we'll come in and we'll go to ChatGPT. So the first thing that most AI platforms have is obviously they just have the chat. Then you can make a custom GPT. A custom GPT would be if I want to ask the same question over and over again. So very specifically, and you could do this with this example that we're giving, is we can make a custom GPT that scores an individual. And so that's probably what we'll do. So we're gonna make a custom GPT. Again, it's just gonna be, here's the client, what are the outputs? And the GPT are very consistent, and that's the goal of this process. Now, the other piece you could do is make a folder, and a folder is more of a collection. So typically what I do is I educate a folder, I give it instructions, and I give it files. So let's quickly make a GPT. I will do this super fast for you. So we'll come in, we'll click on GPT, explore GPTs, we'll go my GPTs. So here are some of mine. I'm gonna create a new one. I'm going super fast. We'll name it, we'll give it a description. Instructions here are going to be kind of your prompts. Name and description both help educate the output. And then one of the key things here is we're actually going to put in this document. So this is the context. Once we build this once, they're all going to look exactly the same. So it's super powerful. If you've already built a GPT, hang on, stick with me, because we're going to help you understand a little bit deeper and connect it to other tools. So up here, now we have the avatar sheet. So we're going to open this, and then I'm going to go to the actual create section, because I like using dictation, especially when I'm doing these videos. It makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, hey, ChatGPT, you're a super experienced business development representative who is helping leads score leads coming in. You're going to look at our avatar sheet, and then you're going to look at any information you have about the business and the lead and intent. And then you're going to output either hot, where the lead is super qualified and has high intent and ready to move forward. Warm, where they're qualified but maybe didn't necessarily show intent to move forward yet. Cold, where they can probably afford us, but they really are early in their process and maybe don't truly understand and need more education. And then not qualified, where they probably aren't a fit based on revenue, based on background, or for other reasons. Build that into a prompt for this, and then make sure that's checking our indexed documentation and context, our knowledge base. Okay, so the cool thing that I like about assistants is you can basically give them instructions like this, and now it's gonna build this for us. So let's let it run, and it'll build out those instructions. And obviously, the better you build these prompts and these instructions, the more consistent your output's gonna be. So right now it's loading for us, and we're just gonna wait for that. But the reason why I want to start here is because whether we're building a folder, which again, the folders are more like questions. I use folders more as my actual assistant. So I will build a folder per like department or per project. And that's where I kind of can like let things live. Whereas these GPTs are really more of like what we're gonna connect to other tools, because the output's gonna be consistent every single time. And this isn't really an agent yet. An agent will be able to think independently. This is really gonna be more of a workflow, which to be honest, in most businesses is what I still implement because it's more consistent. So we're gonna come back here and probably the unnamed one. All right, so let's call this BDR. Otter PR. Okay, so we're building out this BDR. It has some preset things. I'm not gonna look into it too much, but you'll notice that it basically built out the instructions for you. So we'll go ahead and say we want to be able to search the web, image generation. We're not gonna need images. We don't need canvas, but we probably wanted to search the web. This will save us some time because we don't have to give it as much information. So I'm gonna set this to only me. You can obviously share this with your team and things like that. So we're gonna save this right here. Now this is still beginner mode because we haven't been able to connect to anything. So hang tight as we go through the example, but let's just say, let's find a company. Let's do, everyone knows Uber. They would be a great company to work with, maybe. Okay, so I just got a lead that came in. The business is uber.com. It's the car transfer system for taxis and things like that. Can you tell me if that's gonna be qualified or not? So now it's working. It's pulling off of our knowledge base, and we're gonna come in here. We're gonna be able to preview it. Okay, so it gave me an output that I don't love. So I want to come back in here and modify it a little bit more. And so we're going to go look at the prompt, and then we're going to say output should be either hot, warm, cold, or not qualified. Nothing else. In enterprise businesses are welcome, even if they're larger than our traditional avatar, just because if they're interested and have intent, they'll still be a good fit for us and we can execute. Okay, so based on the output, I wanted to change this a little bit. And basically I said classify the lead. I was very much more specific with what I want the output to be. And then I said enterprise is welcome, basically. So I'm gonna come in here and close and then update, and then we'll come back here and then we'll ask again. So Uber just reached out as the ride sharing company and was interested in working with us. Are they going to be qualified to work with us or not? Can you do a little research on them as well? So now we should have hopefully a better answer. So it's searching the web, looking up Uber, and now it's classified it. So the only thing that it's done here that I don't want it to do necessarily is give me a whole bunch of extra information. So I can play with that, and there are other tools to mitigate kind of what those results are, but we got what we wanted out of it after we adjusted the prompt a little bit. So you can see that prompt engineering is super important because we have the context, but also the prompt to get the output that we actually want. And we can program it where it kind of does different things. But now we have a working assistant. Now quickly, super quickly, I'm gonna just grab this kind of instructions. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you how easy it is once we build one that works, whatever tool we're building it in. You can then come in here and build a new folder, which works exactly the same way. So let's do BDR test, just so I know to delete it. And then in this folder, we're gonna do the exact same thing. We're gonna add instructions right here, and we're gonna save those, and then we're gonna add our context. So those are the files. So without having to connect this to any of our tools, we've already made this a usable tool. So you'll notice that on the side of my dashboard, I have this for a lot of projects I'm working with, especially idea creation. I go back and forth. I ask things like, how do I respond to this email? Help me prompt this. What should my thumbnails be? So I'm building these assistants to be really helpful. So it's like having all the smartest people in the room, but really educated on what I want that information to look like. And I'm pulling in expert details to get the best prompts possible. Now, this is all great and helpful, I hope. However, we haven't really connected it to anything. And that's where the assistants come in. So the exact same way we're going to the API assistants. So I need to relog in, and this is what we can connect to other tools. So this is really the magic, and that's why we got to practice with that prompt, get it just right, and then we'll be able to get the outputs that we're actually looking for and integrate into other systems. So let me show you that in a second. Let me just pull up the URL for you guys. So it's going to be, let me make this bigger, and I'll link to this down below for you as well, but it's just platforms.openai.com/assistants. And so this is where we get to use the API to actually connect it to our other tools. So don't worry, it's not super complicated. We're building it the exact same way we built our other tool. And you'll see the infrastructure and the formatting looks nearly identical. So we're going to come up here and we're just going to create one. And I'm going to call this BDR test again. And you'll notice that there's a little bit more information here, but not that much more. So we want to grab our instructions from before. So let me just go back to ChatGPT, and I'm going to go back to explore my GPTs, and then I'm just going to come in here and edit my GPT. I'm going to grab the exact same instructions because there's no reason to recreate the wheel. And the advantage of the workflow that I showed you is you can test it out and make sure you're getting the results you want before implementing it. So now we just want to add files. So this is the context again. So we have our prompt, we have the context, and in here it's uploading. We can add a decent amount. I don't know the exact amount, and it vectorizes it, which more advanced knowledge, but turns into a RAG database, which is more complicated, but it's a little bit more towards the programmatic side, but it just allows it to recall data easier. So in here, we now have this assistant built out, and there's some things in here that honestly don't matter too much. Model is two things: speed, quality, and cost. So obviously the older models are cheaper and usually faster. I typically use GPT-4 Turbo. They're always coming out with new models. You can see that it's kind of endless, and sometimes the results aren't what you want based on the model. So you can test different models. You can also just screenshot and ask ChatGPT, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is the project. You're an expert in, AI. What model do I need to implement? From there, our output, I mentioned that you could have JSON objects. So this is if I wanted to only come out with the word hot, I could use JSON or schema and JSON objects to make this more programmatic, but honestly, text works just fine. There's other ways around it. Temperature is how creative it is. We really don't want it to be creative in this scenario, just because why would it be? It's looking up one specific thing, and then we're gonna go ahead and I think there's a save button, or maybe it's already saved, so we can go ahead and run this. So I'm just gonna run it real quick and say, is Uber the car share company qualified? And make sure that it's giving us an output that we want. And then I will show you how to connect this into our tools. So now we're going to test to see if this actually works. I'm going to tell it a little bit about Uber. So this doesn't have the ability to search the web with the infrastructure, the way it's set up. So we're just going to we're going to give a little bit more information, and hopefully now it'll tell us if this company is qualified or not to work with our business. So it came out as hot lead with some more information. So this is perfect. This is kind of what I need. And again, we can get into really detailed classification later, but this is more or less what I wanted it to do. So now in our last step in this process, we actually have to connect this to our project. So in here, I have one already started. This is the call screening process that I mentioned. So basically we use Go High Level for calendars. When they book a call with Go High Level, it's going to come in and we're going to learn a little bit about the business. It's going to grab context. We're doing a little bit of research. In here, we're doing the classification. So you can see this is one way to do it. In here, we gave it a pretty strict prompt, and then we have an output and some details of how it's going to come out. And so this is how we get the exact prompt we want, but I'm just going to come in here and quickly show you. If I come in here and edit draft, edit existing draft. So if I come in and I hit new and then I put in OpenAI, and then in here, there'll be an ability to pick assistants. So I'm going to click on the legacy version, which is assistant, and then I'm going to select my account and then continue. And then here I can send the message, and I get to pick the assistant. So this is where the magic comes in, BDR, and then I get to reprompt it. So I'm going to basically say, look at a business, give me the output of the categories that I want, and explain your reasoning. So that would be basically it. And so now we've connected it to the tools, and obviously there's more in Zapier workflows, but I don't want to get that deep into it. I just want to show you how to actually create these assistants to be meaningful. So now the key here is I was able to replace an entire process my team was already doing. So they were already doing research on the leads. They were already qualifying them. They were taking actions after. They were doing case study matching. And so I did all of that in an AI workflow, but I wasn't able to do that until I built this educated assistant that basically was the brain of the entire process. So you really don't want to overthink this. At a minimum, you want to find one constraint that's actually going to have an impact to your business, create one assistant, and then if you even need to, connect that to a workflow, or it could be as easy as sharing that link to your team so they can answer questions. Now, if you're a business owner looking to systemize your business and you feel like you might be the constraint and you want to get out of your own way and really move into leadership and actually focus on growing the business, that's what the course is, Founder Systems AI. It's all about systemizing your business and allowing you to grow. And I have a whole bunch of freebies down below, including all the templates and worksheets that I have walked through. I appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe.